One fateful night the chief of the elders witnesses comments and prophecies that the dreaded age of Mapo shall ensue. However, what follows is the golden age of cultivation. While in the Sok region of the 9 states a child harnessing a rare spirit is born named Oraku. 12 years later the Reikenzan clan holds an examination to recruit disciples. As the contestants arrive they try to obtain the VIP room for their stay in the village, however only the bearer of the special ticket can access it. Oraku emerges with the ticket and is allowed entry by the innkeeper Ray. Later at night he is reached by Kai, a slit-eyed boy who becomes his servant in exchange for knowing how he obtained the ticket. The next day Oraku comes across Ray selling radishes to win a bet against the chief and offers to get all the radishes sold in exchange for meals, to which she agrees intelligently. He dresses Kai and his servant Aishu as mascots and sells them all his magical radishes as decided. Ray provides him with meals plus a pouch containing a key and a coin. The following day contestants arrive at the Golden Bridge, the first phase of the test, a test highly distrusted by the elders since it's made by Abu, one of the elders famous for being shameless and obnoxious. While the contestants continue on the bridge, Aisha runs into trouble with a burly boy but is saved when Oraku steps in unknown to him. Aisha drops his money back as they move on. Soon the group comes across a peculiar fountain as everyone stands confused. Oraku explains it is a converter of the 5 elements, hence putting in gold would provide water, which might be helpful in the test ahead. The contestants get busy trying to dig gold out of the bridge, however Oraku smoothly collects a large amount of water by putting the gold-plated bento boxes in which Ray provided the meals. Frustrated, the burly boy greedily tries to take the fountain but drops it, causing the bridge to start dissolving. Kai, Oraku and Achu safely make it across, however a lot of contestants are eliminated from above. Abu watches Oraku impressed by his abilities. The contestants arrive at the second phase of the test, Tijan village, where Oraku gets a filling meal in exchange for the water he brought. Birding with jealousy, 3 boys descendants of the Shah family quarrel with Oraku. However, Oraku has been told of the rule of prohibition of violence in the village and calls out loudly. A ninja girl appears suddenly and beats the boys to their senses. At night Oraku decides how to pass the second phase and employs Kai and Aisha to scout the village. The following day, while exploring, Achieve is met with one of the contestants shushing and his loyalties waver as he gives out information. Meanwhile, Oraku and Kai encounter Bunho being intimidated by the 3 boys. Once again he calls the ninja on them. Although Bunho asks to join them, Oraku declines. In his mind he intends to use him as a source to get out. Oraku realizes that there is a barter system in the village. Secondly, the village does not know about the test and it's the only way of the Tagan village blocked by mountains is to win the villagers' hearts. As predicted, Buno gets into a problem with the village mayor, his mistress Aunt Ryu and his wife clashing. Picking the opportunity, Oraku allows Kai to resolve the conflict. Kai manages to resolve the dispute by talking to the mayor and rekindling the love between him and his wife. He is soon shown the way of the village, becoming the first contestant to pass the second phase. Seeing Kai, the other contestants now know what to do and start helping the villagers to find a way out. However, before leaving, Kai warns Oraku regarding the loyalty of his servant Him. He hands him the money bag he got from Buno, who had picked it up when Aisha dropped it at the bridge. That night Aisha visits Oraku to inform him that he has found the way out. Slightly he plays sad for leaving his master. Oraku throws the money back to him, allowing him to go and explore his cultivation. In a swift, Aisha grabs the bag and disappears, left alone. Betrayed but confident, Oraku has plans on how to pass the coming phase. The next day Oraku starts with a new resolve. Oraku starts with helping an ordinary woman and Koho deliver to her son a teacher at the school. At school he helps the son finish his poem and in exchange asks for a towel he uses often. To others' disgust, he brings the stinky towel to Ho-chan, a woman in love with Anko's son, receiving steamed meat. In this way he continues to exchange goods and gains the acceptance of all 120 villagers. However, the 120 are not all villagers. Intelligently he starts enraging the 3 boys, inciting them into violence to summon the ninja girl, the 121st villager. He asked her how he can gain her favor, however she leaves without giving a definite answer. The second time he summons her by once again getting the boys in trouble. Frustrated, the ninja finally asks for money, the one used in the Reiken mountain. Oraku gives her the coin. he received from Rei in the pouch but changes his mind. Instead he tries to get the village mayor to start using money in the village but has declined. The next time Oriku attempts to summon Rei, she appears herself. He gives her the key instead of the coin, explaining that the coin was probably something the game master wanted to take from him. However, the key is of no value to him and he exchanges it for money, which he gives back to her. Passing the second phase in the third and final test phase at the Snow Blizzard Valley, Kaiachi and the other contestants struggle and decide to team up to defeat the formidable level 2 elephant monster. However, the test design makes it grow stronger when faced with more contestants together. Baffled by Abu's ridiculous test design, the elders are further shocked when Oriku, who's supposed to be a month behind, shows up with items such as cloud stepping shoes and the mystic frost sword. The poor supervision of Abu had left the reward chest to calculate points on its own, making Oriku get essential sacred items in exchange for the high points he gained at the village. Otto wonders how he's able to operate such high caliber items without training. In a flash, Oriku defeats the elephants, making a pass not only for him but for all 15 contestants at once. As the contestants stand perplexed, Ago in her lush purple hair and white robes descends to Oriku only to panic at the loss of sacred items. She yells at Oriku from destroying her test settings all at once, bewildering him. Upon knowing she's the game master, the chief gathers the elders at the Stellar Peak to discuss the matter. They conclude to hold another examination where they shall examine the contestants one-on-one and eliminate them. Accordingly, the elders unanimously agree and the 15 contestants are led to the examination hall. Upon the contestants' arrival, they are informed that they'll be examined one-on-one. Then the elders shall discuss the results and only 3 out of 15 will be chosen as disciples to be taken in, not wanting Oriku to take the lead, shushing steps ahead and is evaluated first, followed by Achieve, and so on. Lastly, Oriku steps onto the podium and the elders gasp in shock, witnessing his unprecedented potential. Oriku homes a rare celestial spirit, the Void Spirit itself. However, when the test results come out, shushing Bunno and Achu are chosen as disciples. Lean Oriku out. The contestants are baffled as to how Oriku was not selected. A representative of the elders, Worry, explains why Kai and Oriku were not chosen. She explains that although Kai is eligible for the Ethereal Peak, he'd be unable to use all his potential as a disciple and hence was eliminated. However, he would be given a letter of recommendation to be selected for the Mampo sect. Coming to Oriku, she explains that his spirit has no worth except as a rare collectible, since there is no technique to handle celestial energy. Being his painfully bold self, Oriku confidently steps forwards, demanding benefits if he's to be taken as a rare collectible, making everyone grimace. But the SEC requires something to be paid back. To provide smartly, Oriku finally flips up the coin he saved in the village and is granted anywhere she asks for. Oriku asks to be taken in as a legacy disciple and is given the responsibility to Abu herself as his teacher. Abu brings Oriku to the Amorphic Peak where she resides. However, Oriku isn't much escalated. Upon seeing a rundown house, he interrogates further and learns she is only at the Jindy stage of cultivation and ranks 5th out of the elders. Unimpressive, that night they shamelessly barge into the cafeteria of the outer court to cycles to eat. However, Oriku likes that she matches his bold energy. Back at home, Abu puts down a stack of tests in front of him and evaluates that he's indeed a talented one with his celestial spirit. Giving her first lecture, Abu tells him that he ought to become intense and brutal in his life, that cultivation, otherwise all his speed and strength would be meaningless. 2 years pass and Oriku under Abu spends his days taking medicinal baths ordered by her in classes on various subjects together with other disciples. After his morning run, Elder Khan is much loved at the Carefree Peak where the classes are held, while Elder Yukon's course is often deserted. In her class, Elder Khan explains the dreaded age of map out that lasted 200 years, bringing demise to the cultivation world, after which the students head for lunch at the cafeteria. However, Oriku is tired of being the center of attention at the outer court disciples cafeteria and heads out to try the inner court disciple cafeteria. He peeks in to realize that the food is horrible and turns away. Luckily, he meets Rei, who provides him with pork cutlets. As they sit together, they catch up on how Oriku is doing with his cultivation. He explains that he's planned to invest 10 years in reaching his Jinny stage. Rei suggests that he should also support martial arts and body strength to make the target easier for him and decides to teach him some techniques. Taking him to an open area, she teaches him how to gather Kai first and soon he can channel it. Orku wakes up to find Abu drunkenly in his bed and wakes up annoyed, informing her that he's leaving for practice. He tells her he's found a better teacher who has taught him more than she did in 2 years. Frustrated, Abu challenges him to bring this teacher to her and he can have his way if she loses. Orku tells Rei to come along and face off Abu, however she declines until Orku incites her by telling all the insulting comments Abu said of her, making her go up in flames and set off to face Abu. Alda wakes up to an enraged Rei challenging her to a duel and loses the bet she drunkenly made. She allows Rei to ask for anything, however Rei passes it on to Orku. Orku asked Abu to teach him real techniques for his cultivation, to which Abu is disappointed, saying that he feels like she's wasting his time. In fact, Abu is taking time to build his body strength, paying for his daily medicinal baths. Since the bath's benefits deplete, they must be replenished regularly, which costs a lot of money. Abu explains that she is preparing him to start her amorphic bones technique, which requires the Jindi stage. She explains that the Kai and Orku's body tends to flow out easily, hence to preserve Kai she had to prioritize bodybuilding above cultivation. After his bath, Abu talks about her empathic bones technique to Orku. Her technique is looked down upon since she's the one who formulated it. Self-formulated methods are looked down upon rather than passed down techniques like the Chase Stellar technique. However, amorphic bones can change with time, making them suitable for anyone to adapt, benefit from and update. Soon she starts training Oraku. Although he feels exhausted, Amu evaluates that he's doing way well. Oraku will only be able to stop the Kai leaking once he reaches the 9th or 10th stage of amorphic bones. She explains that he feels that way because higher level techniques, amorphic bones, would overwrite lower level techniques such as martial arts when learned. Oraku asks Rei to become his teacher and teach in martial arts that can't be overwritten. She again agrees to teach him, finding it fun to teach Oraku. Rei explains that she would have taught him how to ride a sword, however it's for those that have reached the foundation stage, hence for now she teaches him an agility skill called entangling steps. With practice, Orku starts excelling in it. Rei even introduces him to a practice partner and bear. That night, after practicing, Orku returns to Amorphic Peak to find Abu seriously immersed in a book, The Essence of Jingi. Aldo explains to Orku that soon he will reach the 8th stage of importing bones, and with her help he should make a breakthrough. This means he must procure the sanguine berry found on Azure Cloud Peak, a much regulated place with even the chief seeking permission to enter. But the Azure Cloud Peak trail for disciples to improve performance is always a way for him to enter through. Oraku reaches Gaku, a senior disciple in charge of the trail, who finds it hard to decline a legacy disciple despite him not matching the requirements for entry. He consults Elder Yukon, who surprisingly allows upon Oraku asking. Rei also provides him with a self-defense weapon for his journey, the Cloud Sword, a kind of sword popular in the Untai Empire and was also used by Kai during the final test phase training. With the sword he'll be ready for the trail at Azure Cloud in 7 days. The disciples gather at the entrance of the Azure Cloud Peak, including Acu Buno Shushin and 3 disciples put in by Elder Kam led by Gagu and Keku. As they enter, Aisha quietly manages to sneak in 3 green creatures who quickly hide when they reach their destination. Gaku explains that the trial would be for 5 days under his and Keku's leadership. However, once again Oraku, being bold, asked to be in the front. The students advance sprinting through the forest, leaving the lower level disciples exhausted. However, Gaku is surprised to see Oraku keep up. Gaku manages to speed them up by giving them the motivation that if they reach the target within 1 day they can be free to do as they like for the next 2 days. It works and the group speeds up. Sun is stocked to rest and eat. Gaku explains that harvesting food here requires intellect and herbalism that they must have learned in classes. Shushan steps up, revealing that he has an intermediate herbalism but is overshadowed when Oraku brings a bunch of food, announcing that he's an A+ in professional herbalism. As they gather eating and chatting, Keku feels something moving towards them through her cloud strings and alerts the group. Bold and confident, Oraku steps ahead with his cloud sword and his face by a rabid fox. Oraku steps up to the fox only for them to realize that it's just a lunar fox, a tiny critter whose eyes glow red, making it look fierce when its only motive is to play with humans. The group continues on the journey, making their way through the forest. When they come to a stop, Aku decides to use the green creatures to scare the group and play the hero. The creatures emerge and Aisha, playing hero, steps up. However, the creatures run out and what Achieve faces are giant 8 monsters. Immediately Gaku takes over and orders Keiko to evacuate. At the same time he holds the apes off, but as the group runs they are faced by another monster. A lunar hell stands tall before them. Takaku's surprise, Oraku challenges the lunar help, making it unleash its forceful howl and proceeds to beat him up. He then makes lunar howl take down the apes as well. With the monsters defeated but Gaku injured, they decide to call for help. Seizing the chance, Oraku asks them to summon an elder to aid. He group summons Abu. She descends and sends the group off, making a fake excuse that she and Oraku would stay behind to investigate the matter. Free to do as she likes, she plunders the Azure Cloud Peak for valuables. With Orku hearing what Abu did at the Azure Club Peak, the elders are unhappy, especially Elder Yukon, since he was indebted to take care of the Azure Cloud Peak while the 7th elder was away. However, the 7th elder doesn't mind and Abu disappears, giving an apology letter stating to reprimand for her sins, which is all just bogus. However, she leaves behind a detailed guide on how to proceed with his amorphic bones in her absence. After Gaku heals, he comes together with the group to thank Oraku for protecting them at the trial. However, Uno stays behind when they leave, asking Oraku to train him in swords arts. Oraku puts forward the condition that he'll obey him. Uno agrees and they start practicing. While practicing, Oraku incites Bunho to get violent, making Bunho deliver a powerful strike, making him go numb. Oraku had willingly taken the hit since Abu had mentioned in the guide that to break through to the next stage he must take a lethal strike. Oraku finally can feel the amorphic bones working. Practicing with Buno helps Oraku strengthen himself. Now he needs to see his cultivation progress. In the middle of the night he visits Rei and she helps him with inner observance, a method to check one's cultivation progress. Oraku closes his eyes as Rei sends in Kai. He circulates it and sees multiple paths. Rei explains that once he's improved he will be able to see further. The next time he shows up to Rei he has broken arms. From his lethal practices with Buno they once again attempt the inner observance. This time he sees multiple pillars, some of them flickering golden. Rei explains that the pillars are his bones and the flickering are his progress. However, there are only 4 to 5 bones flickering. With further progress he'll be able to synchronize the flickering as well to oomph up his progress. Orca takes Buno the Rei for a tasty meal, unlike the one he consumes at the outer court cafeteria, just because he likes the cook there. He suggests that the 3 of them head back into Azure Cloud Peak. He needs Rei to take care of him since his body will experience an immense change. They decide to head in a week's time, and for the next 5 days Oraku stays at Rei's inn preparing for the breakthrough. He and Rei attempt the inner observance once again. This time he's able to align the flippering of all 200 bones of his, and as soon as he does so a strong beaming new one emerges, making him go through immense pain. As the new bone tries to take control of his body he screams in pain, but Rei quickly interrupts and makes him break out of the trance. Oraku quarrels with a disciple to enter the Azure Cloud Peak and wins it by showing an elder's seal that Abu had left behind. The 3 gather at the entrance of the Azure Cloud Peak where he asks for Rei's full name for the permission form and she says that it's only Rei. Elsewhere the elders stand to welcome the 7th elder back home. Elder Buchanan hands him the Azure Cloud Peak back only for him to realize that someone has entered it. Upon seeing Oraku together with Rei wreaking havoc, the chief is bewildered. At the Azure Cloud Peak the group comes across the golden snake of Carmine that attacks Rei, but she jumps back killing it, but wondering how she's unharmed speculates that the rumors regarding her being related to the chief elder are true. Rei confirms to Oraku and Buno's astonishment, but she's the chief's daughter long ago and Nine-Tailed Fox had shown up to suppress it. The chief had to cast the universal divine spell together with the sacrifice of his own daughter Rei, within who he trapped the monster's soul. As they talk, Oraku is urgently summoned to the Pink Hall. At the hall Oraku meets the 7th elder Gokenkai. He is astonished to see that he is a black elder, highly speaking of Abu, declaring that any disciple of Abu is a disciple of his. Later he offers to help Oraku develop into the next stage of amorphic bones since there was no Further guide left by Adway at this point and gives him a pill. Orku asks why Gokkenkai is so enthusiastic about helping him. Gokkenkai explains that he was asked by Abu to help. He further explains how he used to be a slave upon arriving at the Reikenzan sect. Amu believed in his potential and allowed him to cultivate, making him one of the elders today. Hence a request of Abu is dear to him. At the outer disciples' cafeteria, Orku is told by the cook that Abu had gotten into a problem with Sikyo's sect and is being questioned. However, she tells him not to underestimate his teacher. Disciples gather around the hall, but Orku just considers this all another product of his teacher's careless nature. He meets Abu, who explains how she came across a sect called Thousand Spirits that use the essence and blood boiling tactic to cultivate a technique that depletes one's lifespan. Amu detects this method since it makes cultivation unworthy of its true means. She had dueled with some disciples there, creating trouble. Orku however still takes her lightly, and as an airheaded however unaware Ray had been listening to the conversation and advise him to not underestimate her. The amorphic bones she has taught him are the real deal, and she herself had gone through unprecedented turmoils to get where she is. At the hall, Abu arrives to handle the matters herself. A member of the Sikyo sect, Shiho, argues with the elders to hold Abu accountable. He insults Gokkenkai for being black and hence inferior and accuses the elders of protecting Abu's sacred. He's worried that if he's exposed to Havia deceived people into the depletive cultivation method, he'll be jailed for life and held accountable for tarnishing the reputation of the Sikyo sect. However, although the elders dislike Abu and her personality, they stand united in her defense. All of them believe that Abu's statement is true and she won't lie. Abu arrives to handle the matters herself. At this point, thanking the elders for believing in her, she turns to Shiho, confronting him. Although Shiho is at the nascent stage, she challenges him to a duel. The chief transforms the space into an arena and the disciples gather to watch the duel carefree and relax. Orku places bets for the duel down below while Abu has an eye set on Shiho's cause and sword, a valuable prize. She demands that if she wins, Shiho will take his claims back and surrender his valuables. The duel starts off with Shiho quite confident. He turns the arena into a rocky ground suitable frame to operate and attacks Abu with a powerful spell. Auto easily with a single touch stops it. As the duel advances, Shiho soon realizes that Abu is far wiser. She explains that even though he has managed to reach the stage, you come at it with the blood boiling technique, a technique that is of no use since it lacks an interior, which makes him weaker than someone even at Jindi's stage. The essence of cultivation is to strive for the coming breakthrough. Unlike him, she reached that stage with hard work, accepts defeat, handing over his valuables and returning. Upon return, he has met with Kosho, who overpowers him and turns him into a donkey for coming back with a loss. As Kosho retires for the evening, he sits down to study on Reikenzan sect. However, he is surprised to see little information available on them, which makes him grow curious. Kosho appoints 2 men to infiltrate the Reikenzan sect to gather more information and sends a parcel for the flying sword to the chief of the elders. Upon receiving the package, he finds 2 donkey burgers inside and comes to know that they are the ones made out of Shiho. The chief calls Elder Reiken and explains that they should take matters seriously and start looking over the CKO region. His decision is to send disciples to meddle in all 9 areas. At first, Elder Yukon is worried but ends up agreeing. Meanwhile, the 2 appointed men look for trouble and come across Aragu going to meet someone. Realizing he's a legacy disciple, they follow but are caught by him and defeated. Orku then meets the one he's come for, his old friend Kai, while the 2 men return to inform Kosho about the legacy disciple and are sent back to continue gathering info. At Amorphic Peak, Orku bribes Abu to tell him of her relationship with Gok and Kai. In answer, she sends a big blow to his forehead, however has no effect, making her realize he's already reached the ninth stage. He informs her that Gok and Kai has helped him advance and asks her to teach anamorphic swords. Orku chooses to learn the amorphic sword through wisdom and soon almost starts making him memorize sets of sword techniques. Once he has learned all the skill sets, she gives him his next task to form his own style, since everyone has had to have their own way of fighting. Perplexed, he sits at the outer court disciple cafeteria where the cook inquires if he's alright. Orku tells her the task he's been given. She advises that wisdom is different from intellect and that's how he should approach it. Orku realizes the cook is not an ordinary person but a skilled fighter and asks her to teach him. Practicing with her for several days, he manages to start getting hold. Later the crowd of disciples gathers as the elders deliver and explain their decision to begin sending disciples to all 9 states. Gain experience and return of the report at home. AMU explains that it's an opportunity for Orica to break emotional ties with the ordinary world, since a cultivator's world is quite different from commoners. Cultivators live long seeing their loved ones pass and die. For his journey she gives him the cause and sword. However, Arku is just glad to be able to go home. Disciples start leaving for the states, both in excitement and confusion. Together again with Kai Aoyuroku sets off on the journey, making his way toward home. The end. If you enjoy this video, be sure to like and subscribe for more.